Hello and welcome to the Olfactive Melbourne podcast. I'm your host, Trent Stokes.
And I'm Robyn Stokes. We're a husband and wife team passionate about perfume, and we're on a journey to better understand and explore the art of perfumery. We're coming to you today from Melbourne, Australia, and we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're recording. They are the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and we extend that same respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening to the recording today.
On this show, we interview Australia's premier niche, artisanal and indie perfume brands. From the founders to the perfumers and on to the creatives who take us on a guided journey through a fragrance that best represents their brand. The show is wrapped around a masterclass in which we invite our guests to take us through each stage of the opening, the heart, and the base. The show unfolds in real time, meaning that there is time in between the opening and the heart and the base. And this is known as the dry down. During the dry down, we take the opportunity to deep dive into the perfumer's journey, their brand, their mission, their vision, their values, along with getting a better understanding of some of the technical terms in perfumery, along with how to identify individual notes and accords so that we can more deeply connect with perfumery, and also so that we can better identify the notes that we like and dislike. This allows us to make more informed decisions about the fragrances that we connect with and that we ultimately wear. The show is designed to be both educational and entertaining. So if you like what we do, please like and subscribe and make sure to sit back, relax and enjoy the show. The Olfactive Melbourne podcast is proudly sponsored by Watchvault, Australia's premier destination for luxury and vintage timepieces. Each watch is trusted, verified and ready for its next chapter. Visit watchvault.com.au to discover your next timeless investment.
Hello and welcome again to another episode of Olfactive Melbourne podcast. Today we are delighted to have with us in the studio Zackariya Ibn Hossain, who is the perfumer and founder of Anomalous Parfums. Anomalous is a Sydney-based fragrance house that is known for its bold names and fragrances and its storytelling that's steeped in history and tradition. Welcome to the show, Zackariya. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really an honor, considering the previous applicants and previous interviewees who were here, especially Ali from Ankakush and Corey. They're one of my favorite perfumers. I'm just honored to be here.
It's great to have you with us. So just to start the show, can you tell us a little bit about Anomalous? So tell us, when did you start your brand and what does Anomalous mean to you personally?
Anomalous was started last year during October. So it hasn't been 1 year anniversary yet. It's going to be next month. So that's also one of the reasons why there's a new fragrance that's going to be released on 1st October, which is going to be Marvel's Tear. Anomalous was created just 3 days before my daughter's birthday. So she was born last October 4th and Anomalous started on 1st. And she was late by 3 days. She was supposed to be on 1st as well. So I was thinking that maybe I'm going to start the brand and I'm going to start Anomalous on the same day. But she was late and I already made a post. I started the website and I was going a bit crazy because I wanted it to, be on the same date. Because most of the important life event that happened with me happened during my birthday, during something very significant. So one of them would be my birthday, which is 1st April. So I got made fun of it during school and I got married on 12th April and I got engaged on 3rd April. So it all coincides with it. My brother was born on 7th April and my daughter was born on 7th April as well. This on the same day. So that's how Anomalous was started. Over to you.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the birth of your daughter and congratulations on the birth of your brand coming up to a 1 year anniversary. And it's certainly an honor to have you on the show. As you know, we've been wanting to have you on the show for quite a while. So you did mention the fragrance that you have brought on today, which is Marvel's Tear. So we're going to spray this out in a moment. Well, actually, Rob, if you wouldn't mind sort of spraying that out, and we're going to have a smell. Just while we're doing that, though, if you wouldn't mind letting us know why you've selected Marble's Tear as the one that you want to feature on the show today.
Marble's Tear is the fragrance that's going to mark an important milestone for us. It's obviously going to be 1 year anniversary for us, and it also is something to honor my daughter. This is a fragrance which was one of the most difficult to make, because I'm not usually someone who is more focused on love or gourmand-based fragrances. I'm more towards chypre, fougere, vintage style, old school fragrances. So this was something which was in development for 1 year, 1+ years, just learning how to balance each ingredients. And there was no expenses spared on it. Every single ingredients were chosen specifically for what they do. There's different roses which were sourced from Middle East. There were sandalwood macerations which required 2+ years to make, just to give it the balance it needed. And Marble's Tear is also, it's based on a very important history, which is the history of Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Begum. So there is a layering that goes into the story. So it starts with intimacy and love, and then it goes into something which is sorrow, which is the heart note, and there is something which is the base note, which is grief. And it was one of the most important, difficult part of making this fragrance was that we all experience happiness, but then it's very hard to experience sorrow, and we hope that no one experiences it, because the middle of the fragrance is her losing 7 child, and the base is Shah Jahan losing his wife. So even when I make this fragrance, it makes me a bit emotional, saying that, I've never experienced it, and making it something extremely difficult, and it's just a big learning curve. And yeah.
Fantastic. It's steeped in storytelling, as Robin mentioned during the opening. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a smell in just a moment. But just before we do, we are an educational-based podcast. So just to explain to our viewers, maybe some people who might be new to perfumery, as Zackariya just mentioned, our perfume is constructed with opening notes, heart notes, and base notes. So if you think about those notes in terms of a pyramid, we call that the perfume pyramid. Our opening notes sit at the very top, and they're made up of the lightest and most volatile notes. That means that those notes surface to the fragrance first, but they also dissipate the fastest. They're opening notes because they provide us with an introduction to the fragrance. And as you could hear from Zackariya's story there, it tells the story as the fragrance unfolds. So with all of that said, let's have a smell, and then you can give us the full note breakdown for the opening. So let's have a smell. Oh, beautiful. So we are smelling the fragrance both on our skin and on the blotters, just to get a really well-rounded experience. Sometimes it is a little bit different from the blotter to the skin, which is what I'm sort of experiencing here. But Zackariya, take us through the notes. What are we smelling here?
So on initial spray, you're going to smell a very specific cocoa absolute. So it's not the traditional cocoa absolute that you get traditionally everywhere, or it's widely made. Usually when we think of cocoa absolute, it's more like we think it's sweet. But if you went to eat dark chocolate, it's actually bitter. And that's actually how cocoa absolutes are. So this specific cocoa absolute that I've used is from France. It's from a reputable distiller, and he supplies to really big houses. And this one is opposite. So usually when you apply the normal cocoa absolute, it goes from bitter to sweet. This one starts from sweet to bitter, and that duality is important because you don't want the sweetness to be there in the dry down, because it has to be bitter for the story to unfold. It has to be sorrow, grief. And if you have sweetness, kind of, changes the whole perception of the fragrance. So cocoa absolute is one of the main ingredients on the top, which stays from top to base. There is different resins, different amber accords. There's quite a few ingredients. There's a zesty mandarin accord, but those are not mentioned because those are in very small percentages. Yep, that's a lot of it.
Yeah, definitely smells zesty, doesn't it? I think that's a good word to use in the opening there, and sweet.
I immediately smelled the cocoa smell when I sprayed it and it's in the air to me. Very lovely.
Yeah, and there's also the chocolate accord. So it's a special chocolate accord made with few ingredients, which is to support the cocoa absolute. So usually you use the cocoa to support the chocolate, but here the chocolate is supporting the cocoa. So because chocolate is very sweet, you don't want the sweetness to be there in the dry down. But that sweetness is to support the cocoa in order to make it sweet in the opening. And then later it gets into bitter and bitter and bitter until you go to the base, which is just musk and oud.
Fantastic. So just to sort of explain the difference here. So you've got a chocolate absolute. So that's like a whole sort of note, whereas the accord is made up of multiple different facets that
Yep.
inspire the note of chocolate.
Yep.
Would that be correct?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because you can't make something such as chocolate essential oil or something like that. So you have to make an accord to make it. Even amber accord, because these are all fantasy accords. So what perfumers does is they take different material and molecules, combine them to give the desired effect. And that's what I did with the chocolate. So, and it's in such small amount that it's not going to overtake the entire fragrance. It's just going to be in the top. Once the top like 10 to 15 minutes passes, it's going to disappear completely.
Yeah, fantastic. So I don't think I've experienced amber terribly much in openings before, but mostly ambers that I've experienced in a fragrance either are in the base or sort of in the heart. So what was the choice around actually having it in the opening there?
So amber is usually in the base, but sometimes that's how perfumers classify it. There's super ambers, there's different amber molecules, but in order to put it in the base would mess up the entire feeling of what the musk accord is supposed to be as well. So my decision was to put it in the top notes. So it starts with a very amber based flow. So what I usually do with perfume is that I create top, base, and top, mid, and base. And I just, even if it's a base accord, sometimes I put it in the top just so that it's there in the top and people can smell it immediately. So that's what I did with the amber accord. That's why amber accord is there in the top. It's somewhere in the mid, somewhere in the base as well. It's just not in the base. If you spray it, like immediately, you're going to smell the amber accord.
Fantastic. So you did give us a very high-level overview of the story behind this fragrance, but I think we should sort of just revisit it as the fragrance starts to dry down. So the fragrance, I'm just grabbing it here. It's called Marble's Tear. Now, this we'll superimpose this onto the screen for our viewers because you're not going to be able to see it here as I'm holding it up. But there's quite a particular image on the front here. What's the image that we've got on the label here?
So that's the Taj Mahal. So the story goes that Shah Jahan, when his wife passed away, he was so hurt by it, he commissioned the building of Taj Mahal. And he used to be in those corridors just alone. So that's what the image, or most of my fragrances, we have some images that relate to the story. So in Belly of the Whale, for example, when the prophet is gonna jump from the ship, we have the image of a man standing on the edge of the ship. And so all my fragrances are like that. So it just shows the event that's happening on the front.
The story. Fantastic. Now this story, which is inspired by the Taj Mahal and that sort of romantic or tragic story behind it, is broken down into 3 parts in this fragrance. And that's represented by the opening, the heart, and the base. So we're here in the opening. What part of the story are we at?
So the opening is basically the love between the two of them. It has nothing to do with sorrow. It's just them loving each other as much as they can. That's what's showcased by the powderiness and amber and the vanilla. Once you go to the mid, which is when they start losing one of their child. So they had in total 14 children. Out of the 14, only 7 went to adulthood. All of them passed away. So it's basically them being happy that they have each other, but then they're also sad and very sorrowful that they lost 7 of their child. I mean, I can't imagine losing one child and they lost 7. So that's the part where it's mostly grief. And then the base note is basically she dying. So at the end, what happened in the story was that she had internal bleeding in one of her births and she passed away. So, and that's what caused Shah Jahan to build the Taj Mahal. But then the base note it's supported by oud. It's most about grief. So it's mostly about musk, which sits close to the skin. It's as if like she's there, but she's not there. He built the Taj Mahal and she's not there in it. but you have that closeness in it. Maybe he felt some sort of satisfaction that I built it for her, but she's not there. So that's the base note. That's the idea behind the top, mid, and the base.
Okay, so we've got the love at the top. In the mid is the tragedy and the grief, and then the base is the reconciliation of that grief through the construction of the Taj Mahal. Yep. Quite complex, right? And quite an interesting story. So I guess you're quite deliberate with the choice of chocolate. We always associate chocolate with romance, and so that's where that sort of opening sweetness comes from, the sweetness of love.
True.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. What a lovely story.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, we love the stories behind it.
Hmm.
All right, so we've got a bit of time now for the fragrance to dry down before we get to those heart notes. We'll revisit that story again once we get to the heart, but we're now interested in your story. So what we would love to know as our very first question for you is, where did the love of fragrance come from?
Such a big one, because I grew up in Middle East, so my background's from Bangladesh, but I've never visited Bangladesh in my life. So I've moved to Australia in 2015, but prior to that, I used to live in Middle East, and I've lived the whole my life. We experienced fragrances there like nothing else. No IFRA regulations, no allergens, nothing. People just making whatever they want and spraying as much as they want. So we're more accustomed to those fragrances. People born in Middle East, you would notice that they've always used very strong fragrances for some reason because they're accustomed to it. You go to a shopping mall, there's always oud chips, bahur, people walking by with super strong scents. And so when I moved to Australia, and I was a collector back then, I was under 18, but I still would collect a lot of fragrances. And I've never experienced those expensive ones. Like you have this amouages. So it's mostly cheap ones because I was under 18, I didn't work. So whatever savings I had, I would buy something cheap. So when I moved to Australia, obviously it was impossible to buy fragrances that were expensive. I visited Myer and discount chemists everywhere. And I kept wondering what makes a fragrance so expensive. I mean, you go to Myer, you see fragrances that's like $400, and I couldn't justify the price. And so what happened was I went to my discount chemist and I bought these diesel bottles, which was nice, but they wouldn't last long. I would spray like 20, 30 sprays. I was crazy with it. And I used to go to university and I would be like, but I can't smell it. It doesn't make sense. I mean, 20 sprays of a fragrance in Middle East meant you killed everyone. Killed everyone. But why is it that I can't smell it? So I asked my friend as well, and he said that no, I don't smell anything. It's like so close to your skin. So in that specific moment, MFK was a growing brand. So it was 2015, 2016. I've never smelled them before. So, and they were a brand that was just emerging. So what happened was that my friend told me that, this MFK is doing this. He was a perfume collector as well. And he was a big collector. He was collecting all these very expensive fragrances. And he told me that, this MFK brand is run by a big perfumer, and he's selling samples for $24 shipped from France. So I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if his bottles are $400 each, how is he selling for $24 shipped from France? And that too is like not 4, it's 6 samples. So he's like, no, you try and you let me know. So I ordered it. I went home and then I ordered a few samples, and I was surprised. It came within 2 weeks. It's like untracked postage. Once I got it, I was like, all right, it's probably good. I sprayed it and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is this? It's not normal. Like, this is not similar to the ones in Middle East. Neither it's similar to the ones in discount chemists. And I sprayed it on my shirt or hoodie, something. It lasted for 2-3 weeks. And I was experimenting. I was like, how is it possible? Like, it doesn't make sense that it's lasting for so long. So in that event, I went and got few more from them. Like, I spent like $200-$300. I'm like, I have to try everything. And then I got everything and it was crazy. And that's when I started seeing reviews as well. Reviews of fragrance. I learned about Fragrantica, how people can write reviews, the pyramid. So I know that same period, Amouage was a growing, like, they were always big, but they were also one brand which was, they were not widely spoken at that time, I guess.
Yeah, they're getting more popular.
They were getting more popular. But then everyone kept talking about Amouage Interlude. It's a blue beast. Everyone has to try it. And I was like, no, how can a fragrance be that good? I mean, and I was watching reviews on MFKs, and they're like, that's an average fragrance. And I kept wondering, how can this be average and that be better? Like, even though I never smelt it. So what happened was I ordered a sample, and I went crazy. I was like, how can this have like be so nice? And then I went to Fragrantica. That's when I started searching, about reviews on Google. And then the first link you get is Fragrantica. So I went to Fragrantica. I was reading review, and you see the pyramid. And I kept associating like, okay, I'm not smelling this. I'm smelling this. Why can't I smell anything else? And then I was wondering, what if I buy those ingredients? So, because on Fragrantica, they don't tell you what chemicals they use. They just tell you, oh, it has rosemary, it has oud, it has this. And me being dumb back then, I was like, what if I just buy everything and then I mix, and what if I make my own amouage? And then I ended up spending so much buying those ingredients. I bought real oud. And funnily, amouage doesn't have oud. And then when I got him, I tried mixing it. It's far from what amouage smells. I'm like, how is it possible? Like, I've spent like 5 days, like 6-7 hours every day mixing drop by drop. I'm like, I can't even get it close to it. Like, it's impossible it's made with something similar. And then I was like, all right, fine, let me see Diesel. Because Diesel, they don't even bother writing everything. They just mention 5 ingredients, 5 or 6. So it says, oh, bergamot, mandarin, sandalwood, etc., etc. So I'm like, all right, fine, it's just 5 ingredients. What can go wrong? I bought all 5. It's nothing same. I'm like, how is it possible? I mean, there's something going on. There's not someone's mentioning. And then in that specific time as well, because I was researching so much, I learned about base note. So base note is where people post their questions if they have for perfumery. So they have a different forum, and some of the moderators and admins are experienced perfumers. So I posted there. I'm like, I'm trying to make amouage. I have these ingredients. Why is it not working? What ratio should I try? And immediately they deleted it. And I was like, what do you mean delete? I posted again 3-4 times, and one of the moderators came back saying, you can't do this stuff here. I mean, what you're doing is not perfumery. You're just making nonsense, and you're just doing something. And then they directed me what to make. So there was a different forum which says, oh, this is for simpler codes. You mix these and you get, what you want. So it had simple, I think, blueberry code, wet pavement. It had different musky codes. And I was reading some of them. It's like, I'm like, these are not essential oils. It can't be essential oils. These are something, even I don't know, like Terrasol, Isoi Super. I was like, what are these ingredients? And then I started posting questions and I started researching. I see that, oh, these are other stuff you have to get to support those naturals. And then I was like, oh man, what am I doing? And that's like a different expense. You had to get those ingredients. And I didn't have any direction. So I was like reading those forums, and I saw that there are few perfumers who are natural perfumers. So I was like, all right, what if I follow that path instead of going for like mainstream perfumery? When I went for that path, I noticed that it's not easy, because you have to blend, you have to remove the rough edges, but then I still succeeded in it. So I used to do a lot of macerations, a lot of musk. I used to import civet, deer musk, everything, sandalwood. And then I started making small blends, which were really nice. And then my friend, he smelled it, and he's like, you know what? You should sell these. I mean, people's gonna buy. I'm like, no, it's not, I made it for my personal use. I don't have the ingredients. He's like, or why don't you buy more and then make it? So I did, and people started loving it. So he bought a bottle for me for deer musk maceration, and for like $100. For me, that was a lot. I was like, $100. I just made selling 3 mLs. It must be so good. I found the secret to life. Yeah, it's I have to quit my studies. I have to start this full time. And then what happened was he went back home and he made his other friends smell. He's like, this is crazy. And then they wanted to buy more. And then I ran out of it. So, because I used to make small amount, I couldn't even make a lot, because pure sandalwood is very expensive. Deer musk is very expensive. Ouds are very expensive. So it seemed that if I made 25 mLs, only maybe 6 people enjoyed it. And then I was like, okay, if I buy these, and if I need to make it again, I need to spend a lot as well. So that's when I realized that I need to start incorporating synthetics as well. And that's where Anomalous, the name came from. It's like anomaly, basically, like stepping away from the normal boundary. So what I did is, for example, we have sandalwood, deer musk sandalwood maceration. We don't support the synthetic with those. We support the main ingredient with synthetics.
Yep.
Right.
And we try to bridge the gap between artisanal and niche. And that's when I started like experimenting with other ingredients, and then I learned about GCSM. So you can buy formulas, you can study different codes, and that's what I did. That's where I got most of my knowledge from. So the first thing I did was I bought all amwages. I was like, this is the biggest culprit that I've experienced. I spent like $600-700 buying all the ingredients, but I've never came close to it. And when I got all of them, I was like, all right, this is even more expensive to make now, because there's like 50-60 ingredients I have to buy. I'm like, okay, cut this one. I have to go back to basic. I went to Diesel. Diesel had like 25-26 ingredients, which I got and I made it. So that was the learning curve. And
So you realize that that's not the normal pathway for most people who get interested in perfume, right? So you obviously have a pretty natural curiosity. I mean, the first time I picked up a perfume, I didn't go, oh, well, I'm just going to try and make it. So you've obviously got like a natural sort of curiosity. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's my background, because my parents were always curious with everything. And I think I got that thing as well. I'm like, but then if it's made like this, and I was thinking of saving cost as well back then, because I was a university student, international student. So we had to pay so much in tuition fee. I was like, you know what? Instead of buying $400, what if I made it for like $30? And if I buy 100 mLs of bergamot oil, I should have like a liter of amwaj ready, for the next 10 years. I'm going to make it my signature scent. It's going to be everywhere. And one of the main person who helped me with perfumery was on your podcast, Ali. So Ali helped me quite a lot. So I love his fragrances as well. So someone told me there's this guy in Melbourne who's also very big in perfumery. He got awards and stuff. So I was like, you know what? Let me text him. What's the big deal? I'll ask him, if he has a sample set. I think back then he didn't have a sample set. He was selling full bottles. So I was like, let me ask him and see if he's, available to help me. And I thought that maybe he won't. So I texted like 5 people, 5 of my favorite perfumers, like small perfumers. And he was the only one who replied. And he was like, oh, you like my brand? I'm like, yes, I do. I was hoping, I don't understand these codes. I just started. It's so difficult. No one's helping me. Because it is a selfish industry. Nobody wants to help anyone. So and he was very generous. He was like, all right, let me set up a call with you. Let me see what I can help you with. And then he explained me how he made his perfumes, what he used, how he comes up with ideas. And he what happened was that I didn't even have the molecules to make stuff. So I used to tell him, oh, can you give me 1 gram of musk ketones, or 1 gram of different isoe supers. He used to be like, oh, you don't have to pay me. It's just 1 gram. What am I gonna charge you for? And he used to just send me items back home, like back in Sydney. And I used to get packages, and it's just filled with random molecules. And he'll tell me, study these, study how they interact with each other. It was crazy. He's one of my inspiration.
Isn't it wonderful to hear that, and how generous he has been to us?
And every time he used to send the parcel, he used to send me one of his full bottles. So, and that's me without me paying for it. He would just ask, what would you like? I'm like, last time I smelled, I like this amber fragrance you made. He's like, all right, no worries. I'm like, what do you mean? Okay, give me 1 ml. And he sends me a whole bottle. And it was...
Yeah, I don't think this doesn't surprise us at all, because obviously Ali, so we're referring to Uncle Kush from one of our earlier episodes. Ali's incredibly generous, with his knowledge, with his time. He was one of the very early guests on our show who spent time really educating us and bringing our perfumery knowledge up, and we very much appreciate the time he's spent with us. And again, he was very generous, gave us a whole bunch of bottles as well. And he's a lovely man.
I love him, because even when my wife in the delivery room, my scent of the day that day was his fragrance. Even though I have like 100 bottles, 150 bottles, it's just he sent me this sample of one of his limited edition that he sold in UAE. And he sent me a sample, and that was my SOTD. That's how much I like him. And yeah, he's been so helpful. He said he's gonna meet me. When he comes to Sydney, he's gonna meet me. He's gonna show. I'm gonna go to his lab. He's gonna come to my lab, and we're gonna, meet each other.
Fantastic. Yeah, lovely, lovely man. So fantastic. You've given us the full story. So the breakdown from how you got inspired by perfume, which I love the fact that you went, oh God, it's expensive. I'm just going to try and make this myself. And that's where it sort of started, all the way through to your friends testing it out, saying, hey, this is beautiful. And obviously that's what sort of got you to start the brand. So, fantastic. Thank you for the background. Really enjoyed that.
I do have just one question about, did you say GSCM or GCSM?
GCSM. I get confused with that term because
what does that stand for?
I'm not sure about the full term.
Is it a college or
no? It's basically the formula. So they run the formula through gas chambers, and then they extract what molecule was used. Because you smell a fragrance that might have like 50, 60 molecules, but then you'd never be able to pinpoint what exactly it has.
Oh,
so
okay.
how I study fragrances is that I buy formulas from people who used who did that test to find out what it has, and then I see how they made those specific accords, and then I create those accords. I see if I change one ingredient, how it affects it. If I change a different ingredient, how it affects the entire composition. So that's how I've been learning perfumery.
Right.
So, for example, let's say YSL. I think it was Tuxedo.
Yeah, Tuxedo. Yeah, very popular YSL fragrance.
So I studied that fragrance as well, and when I studied that, there's different nuances that you can see on Fragrantica. For example, the pyramid chart. It says in the mid you have iris. Now, if I like that iris, what I'm going to do is I can't make it because I don't know what he used. It's impossible to know. You can maybe make something similar, but you can never make, because there's like 300
replicate it. Yeah.
There's like 250, 300 molecules. How is anyone going to make it? Anyone says they can, it's a lie. So I was like, I like it so much, but I want to recreate it. I want that specific iris, and I want to tinker some stuff in it. So what I'll do is I'll find the formula. I'll buy the formula from whoever has it. I'm going to extract all the iris molecules. I'm going to put them in a chart. I'm seeing there. And I'm going to note down how much percentage he used in the formula. And then when I find out, I'm going to recreate it. And then I'm going to be like, all right, that's how I created this iris formula. It's a learning curve where you know what molecules he used and how he used it, what each amount has contributed to that effect. So that's how I did that iris. And one of the accords I learned from that specific YSL is in Last Night in Thebes. It's an entire iris fragrance, but it's complicated. Like this one, I think has like almost 52 chemicals in it. So it's all from different nuances, different formulas I've learned. It's a treat.
Oh, fantastic. So this is this process that you've just described is effectively how we reverse engineer a fragrance. So if you were, say, a clone house, for instance, you would use that process so that you could recreate some of the more popular fragrances that were out there, but you're using it to understand, to study and really to sort of understand, what is it that I'm smelling here? Especially when we talk about things like accords, for instance, they're made up of multiple different molecules that represent the essence of a smell. You've got one here in your opening here, which is the chocolate accord. In order to understand how an accord is put together, you need to understand those individual molecules and how they all come together. So that's how you're sort of understanding it. But this is a common way in which we might replicate a fragrance out there.
I personally believe that almost every perfumer, if they want to learn accord, they have to do it. I mean, clone house do it to clone the fragrances, but perfumers do it to learn the fragrances.
Yes. Yeah, so it's an important process for both.
Because you're not going to find iris accord online. No one's going to share. Because if you're someone who created a very good iris accord, why are you going to share it? You're not going to share. You're going to use it in your fragrances. So even in base note, if you were to look at all the forums, no one's openly sharing their accords. It's only in the beginner section you find 5-6 ingredient, but no one's openly sharing, oh, this is what I use in my fragrances. This is one of the molecules. This is how I achieved it. No one's going to share it. In order to learn it, you have to study.
You have to research it yourself.
Yeah, and I suppose this is, the intellectual property of the perfumer, right? So it's perfumery is just one of those areas where you're not actually required to disclose your formulations. You can just tell people roughly what the ingredients are. You might describe a note, but not necessarily say that it's not actually a note, but it's actually an accord instead. And that's just, I guess, to protect that specific formulation. Because it might have taken you years to actually come up with that fragrance in the first place. So you can sort of understand why they do it, but from the industry's perspective, you need to understand how those things are constructed.
Yeah, and then you tinker with it and make it your own. And how long did that whole process take you that you've explained to us?
To learn perfume, I don't know, like 6-7 years. Because I started in 2016 when I started with natural perfumery. So I started buying essential oils. 2018 is when I stopped natural perfumery. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. It's too expensive, too time consuming. I can't study everything. And then I was like, all right, maybe it's not for me. And then I had a call with Uncle. He's like, no, you can't quit. You can't be a quitter. And then he encouraged me again. Oh no, you have to try. And he helped me with a lot of formulas as well. He sent me so many formulas of vintage perfumes to study. And that's where I studied again. I was like, no, I have to do it. And then I created some really good fragrances. I made my wife smell it. She's the test subject. Smell it. Tell me if it's good. And she says, oh, it's amazing. And then my friends smell it. I make my friends smell it. They're like, oh, you should sell it. Sell it to me. So the same thing with Last Light in Thebes. This was like 2 years in production. And when I made it, I didn't know it was good enough. I made my wife smell. She's like, oh, it smells good, but I don't know. It's all right because she doesn't like fragrances as much. So I made my friends smell it, and they're like, oh, it smells like Amouage. This is Amouage level. You should sell it. So yeah, it took me like 6-7 years to study and understand how perfumery works.
Well, good on Ali for not letting you quit because, if you had, we wouldn't have had these beautiful fragrances. So good on you, Ali. Fantastic. All right. Well, we've had at least, sort of 15, 20 minutes now for the fragrance to dry down. So it might be a good chance for us to move on to our heart notes.
This edition of Olfactive Melbourne is proudly brought to you by Silver Australia. Silver Australia design and shape their jewellery in their studio in Melbourne, and they're pleased to offer Olfactive Melbourne listeners 20% off when you use the code MASA20. Yeah, so we'll just recap the perfume pyramid and the hard notes, which is, the center of the pyramid is the core of the fragrance. And this is where the personality and the characteristics, the true essence of the perfume starts to evolve and come to the forefront. So with that being said, it'd be fantastic to hear from you, Zackariya. What are the hard notes?
So the hard note is, again, a bit of amber. But the main player in the hard note is a rose, 2 different rose, a bit of jasmine. The rose, one of the roses is a very special and rare rose. It was distilled, I think, in 1950 by a family in India, and then the bottle was lost. Somehow they ended up finding it later. And then there is a special rose accord that I made. It's a very yellow faceted rose. So initially, it's not distilled. This rose is never distilled anymore because it's too expensive. I smelt it initially on another perfumer who made it. And it was really nice. I was like, it's a very nice rose, and I should use it. It's a very yellowish. Like, I don't know if you can put colors into fragrances. So when I think of amber, it's yellow, dark brown. And this rose was something that kind of goes in that color chart. If I were to take a Bulgarian rose, the only color that I think of is red. So if I had used that, it would like mess up how the fragrance goes. So this rose is made from ground up to be very yellow. It has this rose accord has jasmine as well. So it has jasmine and tuberose, some narcotic flowers, to make it more floral and go into the direction of being more yellow and white. And this was combined with a rose absolute from 1950, which has a different process, and there's a different story on how this was attained. And there was different amber and vanilla used, vanilla tincture, which was again made 8 months ago, because you can't just make tincture in one day. It needs to be in alcohol. The vanilla beans need to be in alcohol for 8 to 9 months for it to be somewhat usable. And then there's vanilla absolute, and more tuberose, I guess. More tuberose. Yep. And a lot of ionones. So you get to smell a very powdery note in the mid as well. So that's the ionones.
Okay, there's a lot going on there. So I think so you just mentioned seeing fragrances as color. We've actually had a guest on the show before who actually smells fragrance and sees it in color, and I think the term is synesthesia. Is that right? I might have butchered that.
Synesthesia?
Yeah, something like that. So Sophie from Fikifolia has this, and we actually did a masterclass just the other day with a perfume sommelier who also has this. I don't think it's a condition; it's just an enhanced skill, I guess. But I think it's very right. Like you smell a smell, and you do automatically your brain associates it with the color. So I think that's a really good way to describe it.
Like for example, if I were to work with chypres, it's mostly green. If I were to work with fougere, it's mostly purplish. Iris is purple. So when I categorize a color to a fragrance, it just makes it easier for me to find ingredients which are similar in a similar palette. So with this one, it was mostly brown, dark yellowish. So for me to find colors that associate with that was something, I had to also research and gather and put together.
It's almost like you're painting a picture as
true.
you're structuring your fragrance. Fantastic. So probably the first one I really want to drill into, because I think it's probably the most important note in this fragrance. It is that very special vintage rose absolute. So there's a bit of a story. You sort of alluded to it before, but give us a bit of detail around this very special note.
So this rose that was used, it's from 1915. So they distilled it, they put it in a metal can, and then they lost the bottle. So they kept it. The family, whoever distilled it, forgot about it. So they kept it in the attic, and it stayed there for generations. So when I heard about it, I didn't know that there can be rose that old, and because the heart note is basically the queen. And it's such a special occasion for our anniversary and my daughter's birthday. I was like, you know what? If I'm going to use any rose, it can't be just a random Bulgarian rose. It has to be something special. So there is a forum called Udikt. So it's where all the artisanal people come together and they sell their stuff. So one of the guys there attained that bottle. He attained it through his friend who's from that same family. And he took the bottle, he paid him a price, and he started selling it. And people in that artisanal community started buying in bulk amount, because this thing will come and never come back.
I know.
So I was only able to get like 45 grams because it was so expensive. If you were to get a gram of Bulgarian rose, the normal average ones, it's probably like $35 a gram or $30 a gram. This one turned out to be $72 a gram. So for me to go and purchase 45, it's like giving whatever I earn, I'm giving back to the perfumery. So, and my wife was like, "Are you sure about it? You want to spend so much on just rose, 45 grams? That's like a glass of water."
It's so unique, though. You'll never get that fragrance again. So, what, a 75-year-old fragrance?
Yeah, it's a
essentially.
75-year-old rose absolute.
Absolutely.
And because it's been aging for so long, it became dark yellow, and it started giving off honey notes. So I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna represent the queen with that rose, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it even more special. So what artisanal perfumers do is that they usually macerate rose and musk together. So if you were to just use rose and musk separate, it would be a different olfactory experience. I think that would be a different experience overall. But what I did is that I took the rose absolute and put the musk in it, and I let it be in it for like I don't know, like 7-8 months. And what happened was that the essence from the musk went in the rose. So now you have a rose which is super yellow, super honey, but then as you put it, it starts getting dirtier, like a bit of how do I explain it? It's like it becomes a bit animalic. So that's how the grief is represented in the story. So like, not grief, but sorrow.
Mm.
Yeah. So it took like 8 months or 1 year of maceration under constant steering. So heated steering. So I think it was like 40 degrees Celsius. Because if you were to go any further, what would happen is that it would burn off the top notes. So it was steering for like 8 months at like 40 degrees Celsius for like 8 months, and all of them was used in the blend.
Wow.
I wish I could buy more, but it was too expensive. And then there are other perfumers who also wanted, like big perfumers. One of the perfumers who's very big in the world, like very big in the industry, he bought like 500 grams, and he only had 1 kilo. So I got 45, and then there's like everyone's like, I need 30 grams, and you can see the forum. Everyone's like, I need 40 grams, I need 50. I'm like, where are they getting more money from? How are they affording so easily 500 grams? I mean, that's so much. But I wish I could have gotten more, but it was I think within 3 days it sold out, and there's no more of that rose anymore.
So this makes this a very, very unique fragrance, doesn't it?
Very.
Because you're not going to be able to get that same formulation again.
Mm. Mm. And it's so well blended. It's very hard to kind of pick the different notes that you've been telling us about, but I can definitely get what I think is a very beautiful honeyed vintage rose mixed with the chocolate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the mid you also have the purple iris, so it gives that purple powdery effect. So
Mm.
that's also one of the complaints I had with my previous fragrances, because I try to blend them as much as I can so nicely, that people started questioning, oh, you don't have oud, you don't have saffron in it. Because if you look at my previous fragrances, I had so many notes because that's what I used. But then it's so well blended that people's like, oh, did you actually use bergamot? Did you actually use neroli? I'm like, yes, I did. Why would I make it up? I mean, it's how it is. That's why with this fragrance, because what I did is I just mentioned, like chocolate, cocoa absolute and resins. I didn't go into detail because I know that there's people who's gonna come back and say, "Oh, did you add bergamot in it? Did you add this in it?"
Yeah.
And I didn't want to leave it into discussion. It happened with the Blood of River NIle. The Blood of River NIle is also very the way it's made is very complicated. There's a lot of mazas, there's different. There's like 17 different accords in it. So when people smell it, they're like, "Oh, did you actually add saffron in it?" I'm like, "I did add saffron, but the thing is, there's like so many notes in it, all blended together, that it's very hard for anyone to pick up a specific note. There's like
Mm.
there's like almost 30 different notes in it. How are you gonna specifically ask me, did you add bergamot in it? Obviously, there's bergamot, there's neroli, there's so many things to attribute to the citrus accord.
Yeah, this is why we like to lean on you as the perfumer, right? Because of course you blend it beautifully, and it does become quite hard to pick out the individual notes. What you smell is just a beautiful scent, right? And there'll be some things that punch through. I certainly, when we were talking about the opening notes, I could smell the rose coming through already in the opening, and there's some things that really, really stand out, but they're obviously coupled together in a way that makes it difficult to separate. And so when someone sticks a blotter on under your nose and says, "What do you smell?" you can sort of freeze up going, "Oh, I'm not sure. I can only smell this, and this," but you might miss notes, or you might misidentify particular notes, and it's just what it smells like to you. But this is why we always say that there really is no right or wrong in perfumery. If that's what you smell, that's what you smell, right? It's just the interpretation of the art form that's sort of put forward. Now, there's you mentioned the rose accord that you put together. Now, I've got it written down in front of me here, but I'm not going to even try and pronounce it. Well, actually, I'm going to try. Is it a Merchiel Neil accord? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Well done.
Probably the first time I've ever nailed it.
It's good you said it, because if you were to ask me to say it, I would butcher the name as well. So
Fantastic.
I was hoping in my head, I was like, you should say it.
Well, thank you for letting me say it. So this is an accord that you've created yourself, or is this is it a common accord that you've sort of replicated?
No, it's not a common accord. So it's there in few perfumes done in the past, somewhere in 1980. There are few fragrances. someone in New Zealand sells it by itself. It's freighter work. He sells that code.
Oh, yes.
So what I did was, and it's very expensive. It's $18 a gram. So it doesn't make sense to buy 10 grams in a 1 kilo compound, because I've used like almost 210 grams of that accord. So if I were to purchase from him, it would mean that I would have to spend like $2,000 just buying one singular molecule, singular accord. So I bought that 1 gram, and then I started experimenting that what makes it yellow, what did he use most likely, and then I started building an accord from ground up. So it's a vintage accord, so it had to be a bit yellow. That's the direction I wanted to go for, and in order to make it that narcotic floral effect, I used jasmine, tuberose, few of the muguet molecules, and I use real absolute rose absolute, so normal Bulgarian rose, but since it has so many different other flowers, it ends up becoming yellow. So you'd be surprised to know in that rose accord there's only 4% rose. The others are all jasmine, sandalwood, patchouli. It's all coming together to give an accord or impression, which is towards vintage, towards something yellow, not jammy, more floral, narcotic. So it perfectly pairs with the other rose that I've used.
So when you're saying yellow, is that what you mean, that it's sort of more florally?
Florally, yes.
Yeah. So rather than sweet rose, more of a floral.
Yes.
Rose. That's what we mean by yellow.
If you were to smell the normal Bulgarian rose, it's very fleshy. It's very red. Like you can immediately tell that this is a red rose.
Yeah.
And then you have the pink rose as well. If you were to get the Turkish absolute, it's more pinkish in nature. It's not as fleshy and meaty. I don't know if meaty is the word. More petalish, I think. It's just like the real Bulgarian rose. So with this one, it's like it's none of that. It's just a yellow rose. In fact, this rose has more jasmine in it than the rose. So
interesting.
It has like 4% rose, but it has like 7.1% jasmine.
Yeah. Because I think it's a creeping rose. So it's like a vine.
Oh, okay.
In yellow.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the white florals, through the heart here.
And that powderiness that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's really communicating that that very sad story. So I guess it's probably worth sort of revisiting this portion of the story. So we've had our two lovers, they've fallen in love, they've gotten married, and they've had kids, and then we've had some tragedy. So what's the tragedy that we're sort of representing here in that heart?
So the tragedy was they had 14 children together. So they were supposed to have 14. Out of that, 7 passed away. So the tragedy is basically that 7 passed away, and even though they loved each other, there's always the sorrow in them. I mean, you can love as much as you want, but at the end of the day, when you have you lost 7 kids, and there's 7 alive, you're always under fear. You're having anxiety. It's just to represent that one.
Yeah, and it's very tragic. I mean, you've got a child. We've got 2 children. We couldn't even imagine the devastation that someone would feel, and to represent that in a fragrance is quite unique. So
the rose that was used is to represent her, and the musk that was used in the first rose, the one distilled in 1950, is to represent the grief. Basically, it's when you add that musk, it makes it a bit more dirty, more darker. So if that's the way of saying it, like it makes it, because that's a very yellow rose. So when you add the musk in it, it makes it more darker in the dry down. So it's just to represent that is used to represent the grief, the sorrow.
It's beautiful.
Interesting. Yeah.
Fantastic. So we've got a bit of time now between the drying down of the from the heart to the base, and while we've got some time available to us, Marbles Tears is not the only fragrance within your range, right? You've got a fairly broad range of different fragrances. You've brought them in today, and we've got a whole range of them sitting right in front of us. Now, what we like to do with our perfumers is get them to select which one they want to sort of dive into first. So what we'll get you to do is select a fragrance, and then maybe just give us the breakdown of the notes that we've got in that fragrance, and then we can sort of pick at some of those details. So where would you like to start?
Blood of River Nile, I think should be good.
Now, we've got multiple fragrances in front of us, and we've only got so much skin available to us. So we're just going to put them onto the blotters for today. So obviously, when we wear a fragrance, it is preferable to put it onto our skin so we can really get a sense of how it reacts with our skin chemistry, which can be somewhat different to the blotter. All right, so we have. So what was the fragrance again? Blood of the River Nile?
Of the River Nile.
All right. So how about you give us a breakdown of Blood of the River Nile? What have we got in our opening heart and base notes?
So Blood of River Nile is mostly rose and oud based fragrance. So the story behind it goes that when Prophet Moses was born, the Pharaoh he went crazy. So there was a sorcerer, a fortune teller, who went and told him that, you know what's gonna happen? There's gonna be a child, the boy child, who's gonna come and kill you at the end. So what happened with Pharaoh was that in order to stop that, he asked his soldiers to go and kill every single baby boy, being a teenager, towards the end of 30s, someone born just right now. So he survived. So that's the idea with the fragrance, that he's the rose here. So I've used quite a few ingredients from different places, mostly being from Egypt. So one of the neroli is from Egypt. There's a lot of rose being used from Egypt. The idea in this fragrance is that just like the boy who survived from, childhood to adulthood and ended up stopping everything, the rose plays the same role. In the beginning, you're gonna have the rose. In the mid, you're gonna have the rose. In the end, you're gonna have the rose. And in the dry down, you're gonna have a sand accord to represent Egypt. You have different molecules, super ambers, used to represent that sand. Most of the other ingredients, apricot, a bit of apricot was used, dates was used. There's a bit of neroli, bergamot. There's a different linalool was used. In the heart, you have almost 14 different rose molecules. So
wow. The first thing I want to say is it smells incredibly different from the rose that we have just been smelling, doesn't it?
Rose and oud, this is my jam for sure. I love rose and oud fragrances. My two favorite notes in perfumery, rose and oud, they go together just beautifully. This smells biblical, right? This story obviously comes from, I guess, from the Old Testament. This is a great story. So tell me, the oud, are you using a oud accord in here, or is this real oud?
it's real oud.
Real oud.
Real oud. So that's what Anomalous is about. It's about bridging the gap, right? So when we say that we use oud, we use real oud. When we say we use musk, yes, we do use synthetic musk, but a large portion of that musk is real. We use accords, we use the natural stuff to support that accord.
Yeah.
That's what Anomalous have been about since day one. We've always used like crazy material. We spend a lot of money on material. My wife is so angry because I spend so much on material. She can't believe it. She's like, because she never experienced this. And when she sees how are you spending so much just to make a bottle? Like, who's gonna buy it? She goes like nuts. And it's a whole experience explaining her, oh, this is why it's expensive. This is why this is, different. This is why I have to do it.
Yeah, I think this is I understand why she would be a little bit upset with you, and it's I find it incredible that you can use this level of quality ingredients and honestly to sell them at this price. And it was a very similar conversation. We can see that Ali's been a bit of a mentor of yours, because I asked him the same question during his interview, which is, how can you use this quality of ingredients and sell the fragrance for that price? It just doesn't make any sense. If this was, and we've mentioned Amouage a couple of times, if this was an Amouage fragrance, it would be retailing at $800. All right? And they do that right now. If you want to buy Outlands, it's going to cost you around, sort of $800 for that. And it's probably not even that level of, sort of natural ingredients that you're using here. So you're using a real oud. What type of oud are you using here?
So this one's Indian oud. So the reason why I use Indian oud in this one, and I used a bit of Cambodian as well. So Indian oud is the most different out of all the other ouds, in a sense that it's more animalic. When you put it on your skin, it has a very dirty note, and that dirty note is represented in the sand, for example. Sand, you expect that it doesn't have any notes. It's just sand, right? But I use that oud to show that, there's a lot of dust, there's a lot of roughness in Egypt, because that's also the time where he was killing everyone. So the oud is to show that, this is the atrocity that's been going on. That's why you can even smell the oud in the very beginning, in the top notes.
Yeah.
You can immediately smell it.
Absolutely. It's animalic from the get-go.
It's just that, that I've been doing atrocity. This is what's going on in Egypt.
Yeah.
But then there's this light of hope that rose is there. It's subtle, but it's there.
It's really interesting because the dust accord, it's real. Like I can actually imagine it, and it comes off the fragrance. It's kind of cool.
You get the smell of
Yeah.
the smell of the dust. Yeah, and while it's it is quite an animalic fragrance, and definitely like rose and oud, bang, straight away, it's a rose and oud fragrance. It does have that really clean, uplifting neroli, sort of coming through. So it's not super dense. It is very wearable, while still being quite a heavy fragrance, if that makes sense. So it's I guess it's called Blood of the River Nile. Blood. What's representing blood in this fragrance?
So the blood is basically the pharaoh killing of the child. So basically it's like the River Nile was filled with blood, because they used to, as far as I can remember in the history, they used to dump all the bodies in the river. So it's basically a very straightforward name, Blood of River Nile.
Yeah.
So it just gives an idea that whatever happened.
The River Nile turned red. And what notes in the fragrance represent the blood?
There is no note here that represents specifically blood. It's more about Prophet Moses, right? So it's
the image of the story.
Image of the story.
Fantastic. Any other questions that you're wanting to ask here around the notes?
Oh, I could ask a lot. I do have to ask, what's Kabiba? Let's see Kabiba.
So Litsia is basically it's a top note. It has high level of citrus, so it's a very candied citrus note. It's an essential oil you can buy.
Okay. I haven't heard of that one before.
No, I haven't either.
I think there is a slightly metallic smell to me.
Yeah, it's super ambers. So I use a lot of super ambers in the blend to give the notes of the sand, because that's the whole image, the whole idea of the area. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask about one note that really stands out here that I don't think we've experienced on the show before, and that's the castoreum. What is castoreum?
Castoreum is it comes from the beaver. It's one of the musk glands. So usually you can't just use that musk gland directly. You need to process it first. So because the musk gland is gonna be very very moist, so first whoever gets it, he needs to dry it to make sure it's hard. It has no moisture, because moisture and alcohol doesn't work well. So castoreum, what usually how perfumers use it is they just take the castoreum, they cut it into pieces, or they grind it, and then they put it in alcohol. And in like 1 year, 2 year, you're gonna start getting a leather note, which is something you can never get with any synthetic. They tried it, they failed. They tried musk as well. Any white musk, synthetic musk, they can never come to the real thing. And it's the same with castoreum. It's every perfumer's hidden arsenal. Almost every single artisanal perfumer uses it.
Okay, so it gives a leathery.
It's leathery, and it also has a wine note. I'm not sure if that's right. It's wine, leathery. It's smoky, and it works in magical ways. So when you add it to oud, it increases the smokiness. If you add it to leather, it increases the leather. So it works in many different directions. So it just doesn't stick with one effect.
Okay. I think Corey from Criminal Elements has sort of described that effect as an exaltant. So it exalts other fragrances. Before, it was one of the things that we sort of learned during that episode as well. Fantastic. Well, I honestly can't remember if we've ever had castoreum. I don't think we have, because that would have definitely stood out to me.
No, we haven't. No.
Fantastic. All right. I think we can move on to our next fragrance here. So what do you recommend that we explore next?
Belly of the Whale.
Ooh, Belly of the Whale. We've been very keen to get our noses on Belly of the Whale. We've heard quite a lot of good things online about this. You get quite a lot of good feedback from your fans and super fans, of which you've got quite a few. So we'll get that onto some blotters here, and I'll let Robyn sort of pass that across. So I think the story here might be a little obvious. I think we've all sort of heard this story before, but just so we know, what is the story behind Belly of the Whale?
So this story is about Prophet Jonah. So basically what happened was that he did some stuff. This is a long story. He ends up on a ship, and in order to save everyone on the ship, he has to jump into the sea. And when he does, he gets eaten up by a whale. And the whale goes on very deep into the water, and he stays there for like a few days, and then he prays to God, and then he's spit out again into the land. So just like the story, just like how you see Prophet Jonah when he's on the ship, the first note you're gonna get is waterfall. It's very brief. It's like 2 seconds and it's gone. So you get the waterfall, water note, oceanic, ozonic, and then you get the deep animalic. So just like it gets very dark, it gets very smoky. I tried to use real ambergris in it, but still it's very hard to imagine what's inside a whale, right? Like it's very fishy, and it's something that people won't like it, but I try to make it as nice as I can while also still being very dark and boozy and animalic. And you experience the mid, which is labdanum, vanilla, patchouli. You get a bit of frankincense for the smoke, and you get a lot of sandalwood as well. And later, as the story goes by, you see that the whale spits him out. So now, how can I make that into a code? Like, I don't know. But then what I try to do with this is that I try to create an earth code, and that's made using sandalwood. So a lot of sandalwood molecules. I think 40% of the formula is just sandalwood. So there's a sandalwood accord, and then there is a lot of vanilla in it, so it becomes very sweet as well. And that vanilla is used to describe basically him being free again. So it's like that freedom.
So you get that full story of diving into the water, being swallowed by the whale,
and then being spat
out again. So I would say that this is quite a fresh fragrance to my nose, right? So I know that it is dark. It's got that sort of dark undertone, but it's got a marine quality to it. And so anything that smells like marine notes to me smells fresh, I guess, to my nose. It's definitely got that saltiness, that oceanic quality. It might come from the ambergris. So you said that you use real ambergris.
Real ambergris.
So again, we're not scrimping on the ingredients here. Ambergris is also an extraordinarily expensive ingredient. I think we've said on the show before, you find a lump of ambergris, you can probably retire, because this stuff is just worth so much money. So again, this is really the anomalous piece, isn't it? You use really high quality ingredients like a real ambergris, and that'll be supported by some of the synthetic notes. So what are some of the synthetic notes that are supporting the ambergris here?
Synthetic. So the only synthetic that I made for this fragrance is some of the sandalwood accord, basically.
Yep.
So because we can't use so much sandalwood because it's 40% sandalwood. 40% sandalwood in a big batch would be way too expensive.
Yep.
So what I did is I created a sandalwood accord, and then I supported the sandalwood accord with real sandalwood to give it more realistic image. The waterfall accord and the sea accord were obviously synthetic because you can't distill. I don't know how anyone would capture that.
Yep.
So it's a lot of calon. There's a lot of there's a special version of ambroxan called orcanox. So it's specifically very light and airy and salty. So that was used for the waterfall accord, the water accord, and there's different aroma molecules like helional. There's calon. There is methyl litone as well. There's this coconutty facet, but it's used in very small amount just to give it a lift. And there's also isoe super for the waterfall accord.
Yeah,
So
because it's got an airiness, which could, from everything you've described, it's the saltiness, but it's also the airiness, which you could kind of imagine being like the whale spray as well. Yeah. And then sweetness underneath that.
Yeah, this one develops more on the skin. So once you spray it, what happens is that you're gonna get that the waterfall part first. In like 5 minutes, you're gonna get it. It gets super dark. Like it gets like very animalic, very smoky because of the frankincense,
Oh.
and it's just an experience.
We'll have to pop some on a free spot on skin.
Absolutely. So you got an actual salt water note in this one as well, along with saline, to really get that salty saltwater sea type of smell going as well. So is salt water an accord, or is it a note?
It's an accord.
It's an accord as well.
It's whole different ingredients coming together just to make that one experience.
Okay, interesting. This is a really lovely one. It's quite unique. I don't think I've smelled anything like this before. It's a very, very unique one. I think this is one that you could sort of wear all year round, but I would wear this in summer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, which one should we have a look at next?
Devil's Deceit. This is one of my last release. This is 100 bottles were initially made and it sold out in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
It was sold out in I think 16 hours, and I went through hell because of this one fragrance. Because not that it's not expensive. It's initially it was the higher ranged perfume in my whole brand. With this fragrance is that I never knew that I'm gonna get that experience or that customer feedback. So what happened with this was it was also during one of my friend's wedding. So I put it on sale and I traveled. So I went for 5 days and people became so impatient. Like I'm in the holiday and in the airport I put it on sale and then I just went on the plane. And then my wife's like, "What's happening? What did you do? Did you put like 50% off or what's happening? Why is everyone ordering your fragrances?" And I was like, "Wait, I don't know." So it's been like 12 hours and I see that there's like almost 100 notifications. I was like, what's going on? And I see that people were buying multiple bottles. There were people who bought bottles and then resold it. Resold it in a higher price. And then there's few people who just bought like 6 bottles. And I texted them saying that, do you want to let go of 5 so the other 5 can enjoy? He's like, no, I don't want. I want the whole. I wanted more. So this was because I went on holiday for 5 days. So 5 days I was getting tense. I was like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. All this. To this day, there are people who still didn't get this fragrance. It's still in transit. It's something's happening. Customs stopped it. So
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth noting that you're a relatively small artisanal brand. You don't have a whole team of people working in warehouses dispatching this stuff. This is all you. You make it, you package it. You're the person who goes to the post office and sends it. And it's just worth noting for our listeners here that we've got to have slightly different expectations when we're dealing with our smaller brands, because you do all of the work yourself. And so you need time to ideate the fragrance, to make the fragrance, to work through all of the packaging, that you manage it all yourself, and then to get the fragrance there. So, having a 24-hour turnaround time from the time in which you order online, you can expect that from a very large brand. Maybe don't expect that from a small artisanal brand, but it is 100% worth the wait, because you're getting something quite different that you might get from some of those majors. So with all that said, the notes, what have we got here in Devil's Deceit?
So Devil's Deceit is basically Adam and Eve. So obviously what happened in heaven was that they were strolling in heaven and they saw this apple, and the devil came and told them that, you eat this apple and you're going to get immortal, you're going to be immortal. You're going to be in heaven forever. So, and then they did it. So that's the idea behind the name, Devil's Deceit. So there was the deceit coming from the devil. Just like the story, the fragrance starts with apple note. So it starts with a bright apple, which signifies the fruit. And then as it goes down, it becomes purplish. And the purplish is to represent that snake. And then it's just green. Because as far as I've read and I've researched it, heaven's very green. So there's you have vast lands. It's just green. So the idea was that it's a very green fragrance, and it's a vintage fragrance as well. So this is the oldest history. This is the first event that happened on Earth. So it only made sense that you don't make a fragrance that's modern. You make something that's super super nostalgic, something that's been produced in like 1900s. You know, 80% of the fragrance is just naturals. This one, 80% natural, 20% synthetic. And just like I said, how Anomalous changes, how they use a lot of quality ingredients. This one is composed of, I think, 30% musks. But you'd be surprised to know out of that, only 25% is real and then 5% is synthetic. Usually people use 25% real, synthetic, and the 5% to support that. This has almost, I think, 22 grams of ambergris tincture as the base. So you get a lot of lift. There's musk ketones, there's apple, there's rose, there's jasmine, and it's like raw jasmine. These are not accords. Because if you use accords or you use synthetic, what's gonna happen is it's gonna round the fragrance and it's gonna make it more molded. But my idea was that it has to be vintage. It has to be something that you give it to someone who's like 50 years old, 60 years old. He's been like, I used it. This is the fragrance I like. This is the fragrance I used to use. So there was the idea behind the Devil's Deceit, and
It's like nothing I've smelt before. It's very unique, isn't it?
Oh, very unique. Definitely apple, like a spicy,
Absolutely,
spicy apple. And obviously, we're not going to get all the way through the dry down here, right? So we're only going to sort of get the opening notes and some of those heart notes punching through. But it's definitely, that you're smelling an apple fragrance, but it doesn't smell like a really fruity apple fragrance. It smells like a spicy.
It's got the animalic.
Animalic, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Edge to it, which is unusual.
Again, incredible ingredients. I'm sure you're probably not surprised anymore why these things sell out so quickly, right? Because this is not, something that we encounter a lot in perfumery. Getting these type of ingredients at these types of concentrations, being all natural, this is a bit of a rare event. So, of course, people are going to, especially when you're in the fragrance community and you know that you're making something like this is going to sell out in a heartbeat. So I'm sure next time you're probably not going to go on a holiday when you release something like this.
That's what Marvel sees, because there's people who's been texting me, emailing us saying that we want to pre-order 10 bowl. I'm like, no way I'm going to take the responsibility right now and then be like, oh, on that day I need to ship it out. I'm like, it's going to be released on 1st October. You buy, or you don't buy. And yeah, I've been having this discussion with my wife as well. I was like, no holiday. It has to be a weekend. It's we have to be home. And before we go live, we have to bottle the thing so that we have a good turnaround. Because when you get like 100 plus orders with just one release, it becomes very difficult to, even to make the postage label, to ship it. We have to buy the box, we have to buy everything, we have to, and I never expected that, there's going to be this customer feedback. I thought that maybe, all right, I'm released 100 bottles, it's going to go for a month, but then it just sold out. I was like, what's going on? This is
well, we're not surprised at all.
No.
Anybody who has had any experience with this brand also would not be surprised that you sell out. All right, because the level at which you're developing these fragrances, just the quality of what you're getting, especially relative to the price that you sell them for, they're extraordinary. And to be honest, I think that you've received a little bit of feedback from your customers. Why don't you pre-sell? And no, you're not going to do that with Marvel's Tier, but it could be something to consider in the future that, if you do, release a fragrance, maybe you could take some pre-orders and then you'll know how much to make and how popular the fragrance might be. And you could probably then have an allotment. So people don't buy 10 bottles and resell them, and they can only get their one allotment. So it might be worth considering in the future. Now, this has got lots and lots of unique notes in here as well. So one of the ones that I noticed for this fragrance was an Ethiopian civet tincture. Now, that's pretty unique. Tell us a little bit about civet.
So, because the whole base note is animalic, so there's obviously ambergris, there's castoreum. I have like liters and liters of different animalic tinctures ready. So what I did with this fragrance is I took what I wanted. I made sure everything is there. So civet is basically the musk that's released by the civet cat. So there is a farmer in Ethiopia, ethical farmer. So he collects this musk and he sells it. But the problem is that you're not allowed to import them. So you have to go to third party and then, you import them. It has very small quantity. So the civet is like a fatty musk. So first, obviously, when we get it, it's very, very raw in strength. It smells so bad. Like when I first got the civet, I had a gram, and my wife was pregnant that time, and she was in the other room, and I opened the box. I was like, let me smell it. I opened it. I was like, I can't smell it because it was so strong. I got anosmic, and my wife on the other room is like started vomiting. I was like, what's going on? And then she's like, what is that thing? You have to throw it out. And I read how to process it. So civet is very strong by itself. You need to dilute it in 3%. So 3% is the safe side. Basically, for every 3 grams, you need to put 97 grams of alcohol. So it's very less. I got like quite a large quantity once, and I've made like a whole 5-liter tincture out of it. So first, before we do it, because it's very fatty, when you add alcohol, it wouldn't mix because it's just full of oil. So you have to remove the oil. So there's a different processing that needs to go before it. You take the civet, you have to mix it with a powder, basically a powder that has no smell, and you have to blend it with a pestle. What it does is the powder sticks to the fat and it separates them, and you need to do it for like some time, like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then you have to add it to alcohol, and you need to, let it be in that alcohol for like 6-7 months to even get the slightest, civet notes.
Definitely animalic. There's quite a lot of animalic notes in this fragrance. So we've got the castoreum sort of reappearing here. I might just so people really understand this fragrance, I might just read out the notes, just because it's quite an amazing breakdown of notes here, and there's a lot. So in the opening, we've got the red apple, we've got the bergamot, we've got orange, some spicy notes and some aldehydes. The mid notes, we've got a rose trek absolute, we've got some jasminium, grandiflorum, we've got iris absolute, orris butter, red apple, aged ambergris tincture, and geranium bourbon. And the base, and this is where it really, the whole thing's amazing, but this is where it really starts to get amazing. We've got oak moss, we've got, is it Hainan Oud?
Hainan Oud.
Hainan Oud, thank you. I had to butcher something during this show. Hainan Oud, Kinam Oud, we've got Ethiopian civet absolute, Ethiopian civet tincture, we've got Canadian castoreum tincture, we have ambergris tincture, we've got costus root absolute, we have an aged patchouli, and we've got labdanum absolute. There's a serious amount of notes in here and some real heavy hitters in the base here.
Absolutely.
I love oud, but I'm unfamiliar with both of the ouds that are in the base here. So we've got the Hainan oud and the Kinam oud. Where are they from?
They're from China. Because Hainan and Kinam originally worldwide is extinct. So you can't find it worldwide anymore. And if anyone says they do, they charge you like for a gram, maybe $1,000. So it's impossible to attain those. So what the Chinese market did is they started planting their own tree. They found the specific tree and then they started farming it. And then they drill holes and they try to do it artificially instead of being wild. And then they start distilling it. They're still very expensive because they are the closest you can get to the wild Kinam and Hainan, but they are still attainable in that sense.
Yeah.
So for people who might not have listened to some of the other episodes in which we've explained oud before, so you sort of mentioned sort of drilling and farming here. So effectively, what oud is the resinous heart of the Aquilaria tree. And what happens in nature is insects burrow through the bark through to the core, and then a fungus infects that core, and then over time the infection creates this resinous core, which effectively becomes oud. People go into the jungle, hunt out these trees, they'll remove the outer bark from the tree, and it'll leave that inner core of oud. However, it's hard to find. It doesn't happen to every tree. And it's because it's so rare, it becomes very, very, very expensive. In fact, some ouds go for millions of dollars. Just depends on whether they're extinct or whether they're hard to find. So in order to produce enough oud to meet market demand, there are places that will farm the oud and actually drill the hole rather than leave it to the insects, and introduce that fungus to artificially infect the tree and create oud. But quite often it's not necessarily the same quality of oud that you might get from naturally finding it. Always worth a little bit of an explanation, because a lot of people don't really understand what oud is and why it's so expensive.
Very fascinating, isn't it?
It is. All right, so I think that is an absolutely unique and magical fragrance. What one should we move on to next?
Standing in a mango field.
Ooh. Standing in a mango field. So this, just from the name, sounds like it's going to be quite fresh and quite fruity. But let's not make any assumptions. Let's spray it out onto our blotters here.
And it's a bright orange color too.
Yeah, the juice is quite bright. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. So each one of the fragrances that you create has a story attached to it. So why don't we start with the story? What's the story of standing in a mango field?
So this is the only fragrance that didn't have a story. It's just standing in a mango field. That's what
that is the story.
Is the story.
So you got to imagine that you're standing in a mango field.
Exactly. This is a fragrance that I didn't want to release. This was also a limited edition. I think it was 35 bottles. So it was released alongside Devil's Deceit. So Devil's Deceit sold out in, let's say, 17 hours or 15 hours. This sold out in like 2 hours. So there's 35 bottles that people just bought, because I also did price it really high, because it didn't have expensive musk as Devil's Deceit. It's just synthetic musk, synthetic. There's a lot of ingredients that go into it, but none of them is like super expensive for me to even charge that price. This is basically just mango. You stand in a field, you smell mango, you smell the breeze, you smell everything, and then it just dries down to sandalwood, which is the bark.
I love
of
it.
the
I
tree.
think it's gorgeous. Like, it's so realistic, but like super juicy kind of mango.
It is gorgeous. It's a beautiful fragrance, this one. Wow, it's so fresh. I guess it is exactly the name. It's you're standing in a mango field. That's what it smells like, doesn't it?
And it just makes you happy immediately smelling it.
Yeah, it just sort of reminds me of I guess we've encountered some of these really fresh mangoes in Queensland, where they smell a little bit different, a little bit more fresh. We're obviously based in Victoria, in Melbourne, Australia. Very different climate down here to up north of Australia, where it's quite tropical and you get those fresh tropical mangoes. That's what I'm really getting in the opening here. That's real mango smell. But what else we got in the opening?
So in the opening, you have bergamot, you have lemon, you have cassis. There's a specific cassis base that's released by a company called Firmenich. So they're the big house. There is aldehydes. In the base, you have oak moss. You have a bit of rose as well. You have lot of muguet molecules to support the top. You have bunch of powerful sandalwood molecules. So sandalwood by itself, if you were to use the raw sandalwood, it wouldn't last too long, because it's woody, but it's not a long lasting note in fragrance. Just the pure sandalwood. So what I try to do with this fragrance is that instead of using pure sandalwood, I use a lot of artificial sandalwood molecules like javanol, bagdanol. There's like so many. So I've used all of them. I use like super ambers. So what it does is that it makes the sandalwood stay for like hours. And you'd be surprised to know this is the longest lasting fragrance in the collection. It might not be too strong now, but if you spray it on your dress, it's going to be there for weeks. Because there's this one molecule, javanol, which has a scent strip life of 400 hours.
Wow.
So you don't often get that with a fresh and sort of fruity fragrance. So those are the ones that you expect to sort of dissipate after, 4 to 6 hours. But you're saying that this will last for much, much longer than that?
Much longer. It will last you for weeks. Weeks on a scent strip. And maybe like, I don't know, maybe a month on clothes. And you'd be surprised to know this was made yesterday. Because I didn't have any mango field, because it's all sold out. And I was like, oh, I have to go there, I have to take something.
You made it for us. Thank you.
And then I had to make a fresh bottle.
Beautiful.
So and then you will notice that with time, it will get even way stronger.
Wow.
So cassis is one of those, I guess, those alcohol fragrances, alcohol notes that we're quite familiar with. So Robyn and I spent a long time working for a very large alcohol company here in Australia, and we actually probably worked for that alcohol company during the heyday of cassis. It used to be used quite a lot in a lot of different cocktails. So we're quite familiar with it, but maybe for our viewers and for our listeners, they might not be all that familiar with cassis. How would you describe cassis?
Cassis is it's more like grape, I guess. More like a juicy red winey grape. But this base, because it's already made by a company, it's a professional company, Firmenich, who supplies to all the big brands. So they made a base which people use, and it's one of the most sold base in the world. So this is like one of the most famous base, other than agarwood, which is also a very famous base. This is the most selling base in the world. So every single perfumer has it. So they buy it, and because this is like the perfect cassis note, like you can't get better than this. So everyone's buying it. And when I started perfumery, I bought this base for I think like $3 for 10 grams. So when they saw that, people love this base, they hiked their price. So now it's like it became so expensive. It's like you're not able to buy it in bulk. Like back then, maybe I would have been able to purchase in bulk. Right now, if I try to do it, the cost goes significantly high, and they know it. Every single perfumer uses it. Like if they want a cassis note, they never make it from scratch, because this is like the perfect note. Like
Yeah.
Man, it's fun, fresh, and juicy, I think.
Yeah, I think together with the mango, it's just delicious.
And the idea with this fragrance was that it's not entirely mango, but because mango itself is very sweet, I didn't want the fragrance to be super sweet where it starts become cloying. So there is a bit of freshness involved as well. There's a bit of aldehyde. There's aldehyde C12. There's one form of metallic aldehyde, and then there's another aldehyde called sultanin. So it's pineapple-ish. Pineapple. So all of them come together to give the mango note, but it's not specifically mango. Even if it's mango, because most of the mangoes I've tried in any shop or I've bought it over the year, it's sickly sweet. And that's the problem I have with fragrances. It's too sweet. And this one, I try to make it a bit different in a way that it's not too sweet, but it's also fresh.
Yeah. Another one we're quite familiar with is aldehydes, because my mum will only wear one fragrance, right? It's Chanel No. 5, and that is very heavy in aldehydes. We only saw her last night, actually, so it's sort of fresh in my mind that aldehydic smell that you get from Chanel No. 5. One other one in here that I think is quite interesting, and I'm going to assume here that this is an accord, not a note that you've distilled, but forest tree soil. So you've got forest tree and soil. Are those accords that you've put together, the forest tree and the soil?
It's mostly the floor, the pavement. So when you're in a field, one of the things if you're sitting close to the ground, you're gonna smell the soil basically. So that's a note I try to incorporate with the sandalwood. So as it dries down, you're gonna smell sandalwood, but it will also have the dirty note associated with it.
At the earth.
So is that like a patchouli that gives that soil?
It's a specific molecule. So it's there in real life as well. If it's dirty or it's flow or anything, that molecule is there. It's called geosmin. So, and it's so strong that without dilution, I don't think you can even smell it. Like it's just so strong. Your brain wouldn't register it. So this one is diluted to 1%. So if you have 1% of that aroma molecule, you need 99% of alcohol or DPG or whatever carrier you're going to use to even make it remotely usable.
Interesting.
And then that geosmin is used in like 0.1% of the whole formula. So first, pure, you go to 1%, and then from 1%, you go to 0.1%. So it's like diluted like, I don't know, 200%. And still, like, you will still perceive it because it's that strong.
Wow.
Interesting. Yes.
Oh, that is beautiful. Long-lasting, super fresh. I mean, what more could you ask for? All right, which one should we move on to next?
I think there's only one more.
Yeah.
This is my November release. It's 30 bottles, and this is gonna be the most expensive release of all. This is a iris-based fragrance. A lot of expensive material. Yeah, I'll let the notes speak for itself.
Fantastic. And this one is called The Last Night in Thebes.
Yep.
Fantastic. I've been looking forward to this one. So this is I guess the hero of this is iris. It's an iris fragrance that is supported by a range of different notes. So tell us, what's the story first behind Last Light in Thebes?
So this is basically the story of Egypt again, because I'm so fascinated with Egypt. It's about the pharaoh. So when the pharaohs are buried, this is the story that goes with it. So when they're buried, they're taken to their pyramid, wherever they're buried, their tomb. They start the mummification process. So they use a lot of iris in it, and they use a lot of smoke, a lot of resins. They burn in the chamber. So this entire process is captivated in the fragrance. So in the mummification of the pharaoh, they use a lot of iris. So that's the idea of the heart note. The base is basically mire, smoke, oud, and that is associated with the fact that they burn those resins in the chamber. Starting of the fragrance is apricot. So usually with iris fragrances, most of the perfumers, what they do is they use peach, which is something that goes really well with iris. But I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna make an iris fragrance, it has to be a bit different. I'm gonna use apricot, and apricot was widely used in Egypt as well. And they used to bring those fruits into the chamber before burial as an offering, dried apricot. So that is one of the ingredients as well. There is other ingredients, neroli, but I don't mention those because those are there, but it's very less. There's an Egyptian neroli because it's in Egypt. I have to use something from Egypt. So there's Egyptian neroli. There's orange blossom from Egypt. There's different bergamot. There is a slight peach note, and then the entire fragrance is not diluted in alcohol. This is diluted in orris tincture. So to give it more oomph, I guess. Orris tincture is also used in perfumery. It kind of like gives a supernatural lift. It becomes very airy when you put it. So what I did is I created an orris tincture. I bought orris powder and then put it in alcohol and let it macerate and tincture for like a year. And then the entire composition was then the alcohol was replaced with the tincture. And then for the oud, it's a very specific oud from Malaysia, through a distiller. And that distiller is not cheap because Malaysia is, I don't know, for some reason, Malaysian oud is one of the most expensive oud. So every bottle has almost 0.8 grams of oud. Each gram of oud is $120. So makes it a bit more expensive. This is in fact the most expensive out of the whole range.
This is very powdery to my nose, but also quite an incense. I guess you're going for like that sort of sacred burial, I guess, story. I'm definitely getting that through that sort of incense, that powdery incense sort of note there. What are you getting?
An absolute blast of iris to start with, and it's almost like it fills the air on spraying. And then perhaps I get a little bit of the dried apricot or something.
Yeah, the stone fruit's definitely there.
Yeah.
It's quite floral as well. Yeah. It's quite it's dense but light at the same time.
Yeah, that's because of the orris tincture. So if I were to use just alcohol, it would be very dense. It would kind of make you cloyed, I guess, cloying to the people around you. But this is made using orris tincture, which kind of gives that airy lift. Doesn't make it cloying, but it kind of like spreads the entire fragrance, spaces the ingredient out. There's a specific neroli used from Egypt as well, which is very expensive again. There's oud, there's musks as well. So what I did with this fragrance is that I created the compound, and then I bought a musk pod, took all the musk and put it in. So it's like 20 grams of musk just macerating inside pure compound. And yeah, it was one of the most expensive fragrance I made. And that's also the reason why I can't go above 30 bottles, because even 30 bottles is like stretching it. But you know, like there's so many people interested in it. They wanted to pre-order, even though it's the most expensive out of the range. They're like, we need this bottle as well. And I have few stockists who sell my stuff. They're like, we want to buy the whole batch. Just give us a 30. I'm like, I can't do that.
You're gonna spread the love.
Yeah. If I give you make the money. But then there's people who's literally putting alarms. Like I have people who said that, what time are you releasing? So if is it like 12 midnight? All right, I'm gonna put an alarm. I need to grab this. So it would be very unfair for those people that they didn't get a chance to obtain it, and it went to some stockist.
Sounds to me like you might have to scale up your production at some point because the demand is there.
Yeah.
You're constantly selling out. People are dying to get their hands on your fragrances. Are there any sort of plans in the future to sort of scale up and
Maybe.
produce more?
Because my kids are too small right now. My wife has to look after them, so it's just me and myself. I have a full-time job, so
Yeah.
during the day I work as a data analyst, but at night I have to come back home, look after the kid, and look after my wife, clean the home, cook sometimes. Sometimes I have to cook. I have to go to gym, and then I have to start practicing perfumery. So there's literally little downtime or little space left for me to sit on the desk and start sketching what I need to do. And that's also the reason why, I haven't been releasing a lot. So last year to this year, I've only released 3 permanent fragrances. Out of that, one sold out. Like I can't bring it back. There's only 2 fragrances. One sold out last month, which is Devil's Deceit. 2 coming out next month. But then other than that, like I'm still planning for next year. It's not easy.
Yeah, I actually think releasing 2 or 3 fragrances, it's actually quite a lot, right? I mean, you don't see that many new fragrances coming out from the big fragrance houses either. It takes a long time to actually, conceptualize a fragrance and then build it and then release it. So I think, do yourself a bit of justice here. You are releasing quite a lot considering that you have a full-time job, that you have a family, and that you are quite busy. So, I think you're doing quite an amazing job. I think just given the demand, though, it's definitely worth asking the question because otherwise you're going to continue to sell out, which might be not a bad thing either. You keep demand up when it's quite limited. Just must be quite difficult to sort of manage that demand when you got people screaming at you, when is it going to come out and when can I have more of it and how do I get my hands on it?
It's the demand and then the postage as well. They expect one day service. This is like 8 hours difference from USA. They expect, oh, you're gonna ship it right now, but I'm like, it's 6 in the morning. How am I gonna ship right now? Or 8 p.m. Everything is closed. How do you expect me to go to the post office?
I've got to say, after going through your broader range there's definitely some themes that come through for me. And that is the use of animalic notes. Right? So I'm seeing, pretty consistent use of things like oud, things like musk, ambergris,
Yes.
castoreum. Is that would you consider that sort of the signature of Anomalous, those sort of animalic base notes?
Somewhat, yeah, because I do have synthetic musk as well, but then the problem with the perfumer is that once you experience something better, it's really hard to go back and use something which is not as equally good. So, for example, I have almost 60 to 70 synthetic musks. I have everything, like galaxolide, exaltolide. These are all white musks. But once you smell the real musk, it's impossible to, not use it. And to use it means that you have to also invest a lot. And I don't wanna be in a position or a brand perfumer where I cheap out from the fragrances and say that no, I can't. I mention musk, but I don't use musk, real musk. It's just not in me. So that's one of the idea that like if I have synthetic musk and I have real musk, I always tend to use the real musk. It's just who I am. Though I have a lot of musks, what I try to do is that even though I'm using synthetics, the natural ones, I try to support it with the synthetics.
So for those people who might not be familiar with animalic fragrances, maybe not necessarily familiar with the fragrance wheel, how would you describe an animalic perfume?
Animalic. I guess it would be, to smell animalic would be fecal, I guess, with dirty. Because every animalic is different. So, for example, you don't get the fecal aspect with castoreum. Castoreum is it's very red wine sort of smell, leather. So you don't get any fecal notes. And then you have civet, which is very fecal. And then you have musk, deer musk from different regions, which might be fecal. So if you get the Siberian deer musk, it's very animalic, very dirty smelling. But then if you get the Kashmiri musk, because of the diet and what they've been eating, it's very clean. And that's why they're also expensive. So Kashmiri musk per gram is like $120 USD. But if you were to get Siberian, it's $60. There is obviously other animalic, and many people think that ambergris is animalic, but if anyone says ambergris is animalic, they haven't smelled ambergris. Ambergris is not animalic, it's more ozonic. I don't know if that's the right word. Salty, ozonic.
More of a,
It has no animalic note because it's been sitting in the water for so long that it has no off notes.
smells like the sea.
It just smells like the sea, and I was surprised. I didn't know that because when I got ambergris from the people who sold it, I was like, wait, does it smell animalic? What is it supposed to do? It has a marine note. It has a very white ambergris. It's like, it's hard to explain. It's like a very salty note. Even when you put it in alcohol, it doesn't actually give any off notes. So where are people getting all this interpretation that it has ambergris? It has to be very animalic. It has nothing.
It's interesting. I think, we might have a few listeners, if you watch us, going, you've said the word fecal and describing animalic notes, and who would want to wear a fecal, fragrance? Just for a little bit of clarity here, even notes like jasmine, they have this indolic quality, or this fecal sort of quality. It's not that things smell like crap, right? So that's not what we're saying when we smell fecal. It's an animalic, it's actually a sexy note. This is what we like as human beings. It's the smell of the body and the pheromones and the things that we throw naturally, and this is why people love an animalic note. And when it's then coupled together with other notes in the fragrance, because it's never just an animalic note, it is a coupled with the floral or with a citrus, or a combination of those things coupled together to create what is essentially a sexy fragrance. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say about animalic is it's difficult to describe, but it's fairly easy to identify when you smell it. And it might be different for everybody but you just kind of know when it's got that little bit of an animalic touch or nuance to it.
Yeah, so sort of like the core of being a human being, that sort of smell. Now, another question for you, just before we sort of close out this section, is there's also a strong theme across almost all of your fragrance, other than the mango fragrance, that there's either sort of that Egyptian background, or sort of that I guess the biblical story. Maybe those two things are interconnected. In fact, they are. What's the fascination with that story?
So basically, even in our culture in Islam, because a lot of the stories in Quran is similar to the ones in Bible, and I grew up in a very religious family. I grew up with those stories, and I kept thinking, Egypt had this. These are experiences would never experience anymore. I mean, many might say that pyramid was built this way, but we'd never know what happened. And I was always fascinated by Egypt for some reason. And there's so many different stories that happen in Bible, Quran. There's so many things that happen we'll never get to experience. And I think this is my way of experiencing it, is to create a scenario where it's similar, but it won't be the same, I guess, but it's something which may connect me to it. And sometimes when I experience like creating a fragrance, I try to relate my life with it as well. A bit somewhat, like what would he do? What would the prophet do? If he jumped, if he didn't jump, or if he was swallowed by the whale, everything has a dark, deep thing going on, but he did end up getting out, and the transition, everything is just a reminder to myself first. I try to do my best, but the marble steel was a bit on a different course.
Yeah,
because I don't want to experience the sorrow or any part of that. But that's still one of the most fascinating stories that really hit me. Specifically about love. I never worked with it. When I create the fragrance, I think of my family. It just hits different.
Mm.
Yeah, and you're right. There's lots of those sort of shared stories between, the Old Testament of the Bible and the Quran, and I guess the various different religious texts there, and they're all quite fascinating. I think we've all heard the story of Jonah and the whale before, so beautiful that you bring all of those things to light.
Absolutely. I've loved the storytelling element of Anomalous. It's
Thank you.
unique.
Fantastic. All right, so we've now experienced the broader range. I think it's time to revisit Marble's tier, and so we'll get stuck into our base notes. But just before we do, let's revisit our perfume pyramid. So when we think about the perfume pyramid, we've done our opening notes right at the very top of the pyramid. We've done our heart notes, which sit right in the center of the pyramid. Now we're at the very bottom of the pyramid, the widest section of the pyramid. So base notes are effectively the opposite of the opening notes. While our opening notes are very light, they're very volatile. The opposite is true of our base notes. They're very dense and very heavy, and so they stick to our skin and they last for an extended period of time. So once our fragrance has dried down, and that's what we've been going through on the show today, the dry down, once the opening notes dissipate, our heart notes start to dissipate as well. What we're left with are those heavy base notes that stick to the skin. So with all of that explained, let's have another smell of our Marbles tier. And Zackariya, if you can just tell us, what are we experiencing here in the base?
So the base note is basically musks. This is a specific musk that I created from scratch. It's not animalic, though it has other animalic elements to it. This is pure white musk. It's more towards the skin. This musk is basically to signify that even though Taj Mahal was built, he's there, but his wife's not there. It's more like a closing statement that, even though I've done everything I could, I don't have you. And the closest I have you is this musk echo. Basically, you're there, but you're not there. It's comforting. It's white in nature. There's no off note. There's different elements to it. It gets darker as it goes, which signifies that obviously, with time he gets more upset, or maybe he gets more depressed, or something goes on with his life. But it's always there. There are different ouds used as well, but they are not heavily used in order to stop the musk without interfering the musk echoes. There's labdanum, there's different resins, but all of them are used in a way that they all come together to support that musk. They don't interfere with the musk doesn't interfere with the other elements. The other elements, interfere with the musk to give it more support.
I think I feel like I can smell what you're talking about. I feel like it's actually to me quite a comforting smell in the dry down. What do you think, Trent?
I could definitely get the musk. That's what's punching through for me as well. But always curious about the oud. So you mentioned there's a couple of different types of oud in the base there. We've got the Kinam oud again, but which we experienced in one of the other fragrances. But we've also got you've described it here as a sacred Assam agarwood or oud. What is that?
So this is a specific oud from India again. It's from the Assam region. This specific oud is 10 years old, so it's not recently distilled. And as we know, oud gets better with time. You give it 1 year, it starts maturing, and the off note starts disappearing. So this has been sitting there for like 10 years, and there is no off notes in it. There's no because Indian oud is known for their animalic and fecal notes. This has zero because it's been maturing for so long. And because this event happened in India, it didn't make sense for me to use a oud that's not from the region, or from a different region. Like I did use other oud, but majority of the oud comes from the Assam, and that's to signify that this is an Indian oud. This is a story that originated from India, and it just wraps everything around.
Yeah.
It's not particularly animalic. I think you described it quite well there. It's comforting. It's warm.
Yeah. In fact, as you said earlier, Zackariya, it's almost like the blend, because I can still smell the rose. I I'd struggle to sort of say, if someone said, "Oh, it's very oody," I'd probably say no. But if you know it's there,
Yeah, you
then
can identify it.
Identify it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the when we were at the heart, it smelled a bit more animalic to me, but now it's smelling a little bit more, I think, floral, a little bit more gourmand in the base, and that's probably that sort of comforting piece. And so I guess that's that part of the story where we've gone from romance to tragedy to, I guess, mourning. But that last part of the story really is where he's built the Taj Mahal as a
tribute.
And I suppose that's the comfort that he's bringing to himself, in that, yep, he doesn't have her anymore, but he has this monument that he has built to his wife, and so he's got a way to sort of remember her. Is that what we're sort of expressing here in the base?
Yep, you're right. So that's the whole idea, that he has built a monument, but she's not there. Even though he did what he wanted, but it's still empty, right? So the smell is of very white musk, which is very close to the skin. The musk that was used was exaltolite, so it's a very human skin sort of musk, I guess. That's the way of saying it. It has no off notes, no animalic, nothing. If you were to smell it raw, it would just smell almost like a person's skin. So that was the main choice behind that specific musk, and the other musks are there to support it.
Yeah. So that would include is it the castoreum?
Yep.
That's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So while you've got the sorrow in the base, to me, and I think Rob sort of nailed it there, this feels like comfort. This feels like a bit of a warm hug. It feels like, yeah, I can see the picture of him, looking at his beautiful creation, this Taj Mahal, which is one of the wonders, of the world. Beautiful. I haven't seen it in person. You've seen it in person, haven't you?
And it's extraordinary. I think it's that timeless monument, right, to love and living and having experienced love, I think. Yeah.
It's definitely, to me, like it's comfort. It's a warm hug. This feels like a fragrance that you would wear probably more in the winter, autumn, maybe a little bit in spring, but probably those sort of deeper parts of the year. Is that sort of where you'd position this fragrance?
Because it's not a fresh fragrance. Because when we think of love, we think of amber. So this is positioned, if it's amber, it's very heavy noted fragrance. It goes towards the winter sort of time.
Yeah. And nighttime and winter.
Yeah. Even autumn, I think I would put it on.
Yeah, I agree. Especially in Melbourne, for sure. Because autumn is still quite cool.
Yes.
What a beautiful fragrance.
Yes, it is.
What a beautiful story. I mean, I couldn't think of a better sort of story and monument to inspire a fragrance around. I think it's absolutely glorious. Thank you so much for taking us on that masterclass through Marble's Tear. I think it is absolutely glorious, and it's coming out. When is it releasing?
So it's releasing on 1st October, which is obviously the brand's anniversary, and 2 days behind my daughter's birthday. So it's just a way of giving back to the community. I decided that every anniversary we're going to do something special, but this is one where we decided, we're going to release this one. It's just, I've worked too long for this one, and it's just too special. Too many ingredients, too many notes, too many experiences. And most of the people, for me, it's the joy that people smell it and they experience it. They read the story and they do a bit of research and they're like, oh, damn, this smells, how you described it. And for me, that's everything.
So this episode is dropping at the very end of September. So effectively, it is releasing in a couple of days. So if you want this fragrance, you're going to have to jump on to the website. So what is your website?
It's www.anomalousparfum.com.
Fantastic. So for those people who are watching on YouTube, we're going to have that on the bottom of your screen right now. For those people who are listening via Spotify or who are listening on Apple Podcasts, we'll ensure that we embed the website straight into the description. Popping up on your screen right now, will be a QR code. That QR code, if you scan it, will take you to our website, which is the Olfactive Melbourne website. There we'll have a full profile of Anomalous, along with a link back to Zackariya's website there. So multiple ways in which you can actually find the website.
And then, of course, what's next is we also have, is it the Last Light in Thebes?
Yep, that's the next fragrance. So after Marble Steer. So once I'm done with shipping all the order that month, I'm gonna start with Marble Steer, the Last Light in Thebes, and then for December, for next year, I have few projects going on with different perfumers, so it's more like a collaboration. For December, I haven't decided if I want to do anything because it's during the Christmas and towards the end of the year, so I'll be busy with my family. But next year we're working with few perfumers, so I've reached out, and some of the perfumers reached out to me, saying that we want to collaborate, we want to see what we can do. So there's this perfumer from Germany, Nebiru. So he's an artisanal perfumer as well. It's very nice bloke, Frederick. His perfumes are very nice, and he's well regarded and well known within Germany. So we have a collaboration coming up with him, which is Separation of the Sea. It's based on, again, Egypt, when Moses parted the sea. So you have the notes of waterfall, again, notes of water, which I'm going to be doing, and he's going to be doing the heart of the fragrance, which is the fougere aspect, and he's going to use some really vintage ingredients to make it work. And then the base would be me again, which is creating the floor, because when you part the sea, you have the floor. So I'm going to be creating a very realistic floor accord. It's as if, you just wiped off water from a beach and you smell it. So that's one of the projects that's going on. And then there's another individual I'm working with, Artistry. I'll be working with him for a fragrance releasing next April. It's based on Noah and the ship. So again, it's water, and then it's gonna be super animalic because it's all the animals in the ship again. So there is that one, and there's a few more coming up, but it's not decided yet. There's another one coming up with Aroma de Salazar. I don't know if you heard of it.
No, I haven't.
He's a USA-based perfumer. He's very, very well known and very well regarded in the community. I'm gonna be having a collab with him as well. Towards the end, hopefully towards the end of the year.
Wow.
And hopefully I make my own perfume as well.
I'm not sure how you're going to find time. You are extraordinarily busy.
Yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. So there's definitely a theme there that flows through your work, which is amazing. So, and lots of exciting things on the horizon. So are these some of the first collaborations that you've done, or have you done collaborations?
No, I haven't done collaboration before, so this will be the first one.
Okay. And is that just, I think it's just quite interesting. Is it common when you collaborate? I'm not sure whether you know the answer to this, because we haven't really dealt with any sort of people who have collaborated before, but is it common that someone does the opening and then somebody does the heart and somebody else does the base, and you just sort of bring that together? Is that the way a collaboration usually would work?
Really, sometimes how it works is that one person gives the direction on how it's supposed to go. So for example, if I'm the one coming up with the idea, I'm gonna be telling him, oh, you need to make your fougere a core, whatever you're doing in the heart note, to what direction I want. Sometimes it's just the direction. Sometimes we give them freedom, like whatever you want to do, it's all right. Just make sure it balances and it smells nice, it's sellable, or it's something we can present to people and people like it. There's many different ways to do a collaboration. There's another collaboration that I've been meaning to do, but I haven't done it, which is back to the first part, is the direction. There's this well-known person in the perfume community, Rajesh Balkishwar. I don't know if you heard of him. He worked with Bortnikov before, with his creation site Nova. I haven't reached out to him, but I know that he does collaboration with a lot of people. I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to ask him, I'm going to create a fragrance. You're going to give me directions, because I don't think he's not a perfumer. So he's someone who has a lot of fragrance and he knows how to make it work. So I'm going to reach out to him and we'll see if we can collab. There's few different ways to collaborate. The one with Neburu, for example, I'm going to be providing him some materials to work with, some vintage items, some patchouli from 1980s, some lavender from 1900s again. Like there's so many things, so many directions we can go with. One of the ingredients that's gonna be used is Haze Absolute. But Haze Absolute, the one we're gonna use is from Australia. So it's just to show that this is an ingredient from Australia. Perfumer is from Australia, and he's gonna use ingredients from USA, and that's to signify he's from USA. So there's a lot of different ways. So we're gonna see how to sort it out.
It's a creative endeavor, so you can collaborate however you like, and some amazing ingredients.
Yeah,
there.
and for this year actually, I had one collaboration planned with Ali. But then Ali, he became so busy, he couldn't reply back to me. But I don't know if it's still going forward. I have to text him. The last time I spoke to him, he said that why not? We're gonna make a rose-based fragrance. But
Beautiful. Yeah, he is a busy man. He's got a lot in his range as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that fans would love that. So get on it.
yeah, hopefully.
Well, look, thank you so much. It's been absolutely incredible to experience all the beautiful Anomalous range and for being so generous with your time today, Zackariya. It's been wonderful.
Fantastic. Now, just for those people who are at home who want to experience these fragrances, maybe smell along with us, do you supply any samples that people can purchase on the website?
I don't supply samples. Not that I don't want to, but it's just that I don't have time to make them because just like bottles, making sample is very tiresome. You need to pump everything. You need to put everything in a bottle. For me, what I do is at the beginning of the month, me and my wife, we make bunch of samples, and what we do is anybody does order a fragrance, we just give them out for free.
Yeah.
For us, it doesn't make sense to charge anyone for samples because our fragrances are so affordable in a sense that you can find a full bottle for $109, $115. If I were to sell just a sample, how much can I sell it for?
Yeah.
So it makes no sense for us to specifically sell a sample. So if anybody wants a fragrance, they just email us and we just send them out for free. If they had previously ordered with us, we just send all the samples. It doesn't matter for us.
Incredibly generous. So that's the way. If you want to know what it smells like, the best way is just to get in contact with you.
Yep.
Fantastic. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been an amazing masterclass. As you know, we've been dying to get you on the show for some time. And we've been really wanting to experience, marbles here, especially from the first moment that you described it to us. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time, bringing in this range of fragrances, flying down from Sydney to be live in the studio with us. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all of our listeners as well. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. And if you have, please take some time to send us a review or like and subscribe to the channel. And we look forward to seeing you next time for another episode of Olfactive Melbourne podcast with the perfumers and the masterclasses. Thank you very much.
Thank you.